basically, we went clubbing from about 1978 onwards.
I am Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, a podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories they created there, and the people that they used to know. Princess Julia is London clubbing royalty, first coming to notoriety in the late 1980s as one of the original Blitz Kids. From then on, her name has been synonymous with just about every trend in queer clubbing, from taboo to kinky galinky. We kind of broke the rules for this episode, and instead of focusing on one specific club, we instead traced a potted map of Princess Julia's clubbing history. From late 70s bar Sombrero right up until now, we had so much to talk about that I've had to split the conversation across 2 episodes. This, the first episode, focuses on Princess Julia's first days of clubbing from the Sombrero on Kensington High Street right up until the mid-80s and Lee Bowery's Taboo.
Because I've been involved in so many clubs in all the decades.
Yeah. We could pick and choose. We could just go through them.
Yeah, we could do a weird timeline maybe of club events going on.
So,
But some of my earliest memories of clubbing are places such as the Sombrero.
And so the Sombrero, so it was on Kensington High Street.
The Sombrero was on Kensington High Street, and it was a little gay club in a basement. They had some weird drinks licence down there, where if you got there early enough, you'd have this sort of like spam supper served to you.
Like actual spam.
2 slices of white bread, a leaf of salad, and some presumably spam, which actually we were all starving, so we ate it.
So just to get you in the dancing mood.
There was some sort of drinks, loophole.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like a members club.
Oh, so if they served food,
they could serve drinks.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't. It was really just
the bare minimum.
It was a disco dive bar
mm-hmm.
that had a late licence in Kensington High Street, and the DJ was a guy called Rudy, who actually did the coat check at Heaven when Heaven first opened. He did there for a while, I do believe. Yes, he did. So we'd all go there, and because you could go any night of the week. And generally you'd go after you'd been somewhere else, like say a gig or something like that.
Yeah.
And when you got your spam supper, you got a little ticket and then you were in, and it was the Sombrero, yours or mine, in brackets. And it had a little raised dance floor, light up dance floor. You walked in down the steps, turned left, and it was quite opulent in a sense. And as I said before, there's no real evidence of that club, but there is an Adam and the Ants video that was filmed there. You'll have to bear with me while I try and remember which one it was, because you can see it. It was filmed in the Sombrero. And the waiters had, remember this was a gay disco, but a real miniature one. as I remember, they did have roller skates on occasion and little shorts. I might be making that up. I might be cross-hatching with the embassy.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
So you say it's miniature. What kind of size? Like how many
Well,
people?
it's a little basement, but the way they sort of laid it out, it sort of had a tiered effect.
So
it
dancing
looked
in the
much
middle,
bigger,
or?
So there was a dance floor in the middle, a light up dance floor, and then there was these little mushroomy chairs around the edge. And then the waiter would come over, sashaying over.
Or
but
skating
it was all
over.
sort of dark, and it was like a brown colour, but with a light up dance floor.
And was it those kind of squares where there were different colour
Yeah,
squares?
that's it, yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and then it had a sort of tiered effect. So I guess there was a sort of hierarchy going on. There was a VIP area. And I remember there was a woman there called Mandy Miami,
Oh.
who was a journalist. And she was there with another journalist that's still going, David Johnson. And they were always in the higher echelon of the club.
Looking down on everyone.
Yeah, like they were there with popping the champagne and all the rest of it. And I used to basically go and with Geoffrey Hinton and my flatmate, my roommate, because I had lived in a bedsit in Church Street then, Ashley Baines. So we used to go in there from time to time and hang out with the DJ.
And so was it one of the first gay clubs?
And it was very, very amusing because Rudy, we didn't really do mixing. It was more like quite often on a disco 12-inch, there'd be parts 1 and parts 2. Those of people that are disco connoisseurs will know this fact. And quite often Rudy would just let one run out, turn the record over, the other side on, parts 2 coming up.
So he took his job really seriously.
But it was landed a 12-inch vinyl. So it was all long disco fabularity.
And so what kind of songs could you expect to hear?
Grace Jones, Amanda Lear, Sarone, all those fabulous songs, Supernature, like all those ones that I still am actually playing today.
This is classic. And so, was it one of the first gay bars that you went to, or?
It probably was actually, because basically when I left school in 1976, I got a hairdressing job in Knightsbridge as a hairdressing junior or apprentice, and the person that I trained under was a boy called Willie, and they all used to go there as well. So it was one of those places. There were some other places as well, but that was the gayest of the gay. There were other places that we used to go to around and about. And at that point in time, Earls Court was the epicentre of gayness. Earls Court was what Old Compton Street is today, basically. All the bars, all the pubs were all there. And I lived in that side of London.
But you knew Geoffrey before you started going?
No, I met Geoffrey around the same time. Geoffrey was friends of my roommate, Ashley. So, yeah. It's all sort of merging in, isn't it? Merging in. Are we going to do a sort of like a sort of little thread of clubbing history, maybe a snippet of it, because out of that, and you've got to remember this was like the sort of 76 for me, sort of the mid 70s. There was also this sort of punk thing going on as well. So the punk movement was actually really gay. It was, people kind of seem to forget that it was full of, the core of it were all artists and creative people, musicians, fashion designers, people creating stuff writers, and it was very gay. And so a lot of the places people went to after you go to a gig of some sort would be a gay place, a gay club, sorry. And there was a place called Louise's that I went a few times, but I was still quite really young then. So there were these sort of places that people went to. And when the punk movement sort of dissipated somewhat, because basically all the bands started getting signed, like Susie and the Banshees and all the rest of it, and they all started touring. So the kind of the core of it kind of shifted a bit, I feel, and there was a bit of a lull. And out of that scene, I actually met Steve Strange, and he sort of, this is like an old stock story, but it's true. He's from Wales, and he kind of took a sabbatical for a few months and then contacted me out of the blue one day and said, let's go out, I'm back in town. So we started going out again, and we went to places like Bang and the Embassy and sometimes the Sombrero and just different places, and there wasn't a lot going on that we wanted to get him, like, sort of be at in a way.
It didn't feel like the right vibe.
I just felt like there was new music coming through. And Stephen made friends with a guy called Rusty Egan at some point. And really, Rusty and Steve sort of masterminded the beginnings of the Blitz, what became known as the Blitz Club. But it was actually, we ran a Bowie night.
Oh, okay.
In Maird Street in Billy's. And that was the beginnings of it, and that lasted for about 6 months in early 78. And then I was working with Steve in a shop called PX in the then derelict Covent Garden, and they decided to move the night. They heard that there was somewhere where we could do it, and it was actually... the club was called the Blitz, and it was a place that we used to go to. I used to go there when I was a hairdressing apprentice, actually, before, maybe of the weekend, every now and again. And I used to go there, and that's where I met Biddy and Eve, who were the cabaret act on there. But the Bowie night that we did, that I was more involved in, was a Tuesday night. So that ran only just over a year, really, at the Blitz Club, and it became known as the Blitz Night, the New Romantic.
And so it just evolved.
Era.
It just evolved from there, then.
Well, it evolved from there because basically Rusty and Steve had a very strong idea of what kind of night they wanted to do, and it involved a lot of dressing up, which we all loved doing. But away from the sort of mainstream idea of what a disco was. And there was a lot of post-punk, European electronica coming through that was kind of like, some of it was quite disco orientated. Some of it was very sort of raw and sort of new sounding. There was sort of our classics, you know, Kraftwerk. Things like The Normal, TVOD. You can play all these going along in the background.
Soundtrack.
And then there was things like Marauder coming in, and all the disco-y things that we loved as well. And really, Rusty masterminded that sort of formula. And with the Bowie, you know, and the Iggy Pop and the rock and roll coming in as well. I mean, it was really a great mix of music.
And so when you were saying it started off as a Bowie night, is that just playing Bowie music all night?
No,
okay.
We hit Rusty. That was the sort of like
hook,
the basic.
Yeah.
I say basic, but I mean
to get people
the premise,
in.
The cornerstones. But it encompassed the music that came out of people experimenting with electronica. So it could be krautrock, you know, it could be all kinds of stuff that was coming out of Europe and here out of the UK. You know, things like Human League.
Yeah.
Like Being Boiled, that was like a major classic. We had that on all the time. But then we had things like The Chase, you know, there was things like that. Moscow Disco, that was a good one. So I still play all those things as well.
Well, classics never go out of style,
really
do they?
Good. So that really was the new romantic era, and what came, that was really happened over a period of like, well, not even 2 years, but around that sort of mark. And then it moved to another night called Hell, to another club. The club was called Hell.
But so while we're still on the Blitz, that wasn't like marketed as a queer night, was it?
It wasn't marketed at all, really. I mean, Steve Strange did court the media. He enjoyed that. And the media called it various names because, as you know, people like to label things or like
and villainize,
give things a little thing to engage people
put
with.
people in boxes.
So the New Romantics was one such description, shall we say, and then it were also known as the club for the cult with no name. Things like that.
The cult was no name. That's so odd.
Yeah. The Twilight World of Unhappy Gays. Which was actually one of my favourite headlines.
So that was a headline to describe
That
the
was
movie.
a headline to describe that night. I forgot that, you know, there was a sort of straight contingent going on.
Yeah.
i.e. Spandau Ballet.
Yes, yeah.
So we did have, you know, it was quite a mix of people. It was basically people that were interested in dressing up.
And so the media just kind of hopped on the fact that there was a flamboyance and associated that with queerness.
But probably Steve Strange actually phoned them up and said, come to my night, quite frankly.
Just badgered them.
Yeah, probably did. You know, we've got our night on tonight. You know, because people were coming, you know, people that were pretty famous were coming to that night as well in the end. I mean, but the core of it was us, you know,
and
having sort of fun there.
And so when did you kind of cotton on that it had gotten bigger?
We didn't really, I think, till it kind of ended, because that night really ended in 1980. So we didn't really think that it would have such a resounding effect and really set the premise for the 80s to happen, actually. So it was quite interesting that its legacy is still with us today.
Yeah, it's huge.
You know, it's like I'm fascinated by it myself, and I was in it.
Yeah. But what tends to happen is when a movement or a club night or something becomes an area, becomes popular, lots of hangers-on start showing up, or people that you wouldn't necessarily want to be in your club. Did that happen? I'm trying to say it in a nice way, but you know,
I don't really
those kind of tourists
this thing of hangers-on and what have you. I don't get it, because, like, you know, as I was saying earlier, you know, in my life, I have carried on in the clubbing fashion through all those decades, and I see clubbing as a sort of more of a community, an escapism, sometimes hedonistic, and quite a lot actually. That's very, I think that's a good idea, to throw your cares away in a safe environment. And because the scene itself was so small, there was no idea of hangers-on or anything, to be honest, because there just wasn't that many people that were
Ah,
really
okay.
interested in
So-
it. It was just a core of creative people.
So you didn't have like when there were these headlines going out and when people became aware of it, you didn't have lots of kind of people coming to see what it was about, but who weren't actually part of the scene.
Anyone that came to that night were part of that night.
Ah, okay.
That's my opinion. And from that night, other people were inspired to do their own nights. In a sense, what the Blitz did was create a night that you could put on yourself,
Okay.
and gave people the idea that they could run their own night. Generally, in clubs before then, the clubs ran their nights.
Yeah.
They programmed all their nights. They didn't really have people coming in and hosting a night as such.
But and so did that not come
There
up
might
through
be
the punk?
party hosts
Okay.
like Vicky Delombre that would run like celebrity parties and host these parties, but there was no real one night a week specialist party for like-minded individuals. Well, I can't think of one.
And so this kind of set that blueprint then for what we have now.
Yeah. Obviously, in clubs and bars, there were things going on that were different from night to night. There'd be different DJs, but the club themselves would program those nights in. They wouldn't have someone from the outside come in and go, right, we're going to, this is our scene and we're going to take over.
Yeah.
That didn't really happen.
And so why did it end so soon? Why was it only 2 years?
I think Steve just wanted to move it, and I think it had come to the end of its life, and I think he wanted to nip it in the bud while it was going well. And then we weren't particularly precious about it. There was another club, a new club opening in Covent Garden, not too far away, and I think he got an offer to run a night there, and the club was called Hell. It didn't really last that long there though, and then the Camden Palace opened, and then Steve and Rusty basically took that over. It was the People's Palace.
Ah.
Oh yeah. But then you see things like Heaven, they'd started up. Heaven opened in 1979, and it started off as a men only club, although I did go there from time to time. But it was a men only, quite strict, that arch.
So just men only and Julia.
Yeah, every now and again. I went there to see Grace Jones.
Oh.
I was desperate.
Yeah, of course you would, yeah.
Get me in, please get me in. Anyway, so further down the line, within a couple of years, really, Heaven started doing different nights in the week. So the weekends it was like the men only, your Clone Queen kind of thing. And in the week it soon became a place where people could host one of the bars. Round the back was the Sound Shaft, which you may...
Oh no, so that's a different venue.
Yeah, no, it was part of Heaven.
Oh, okay.
But the Sound Shaft was your hardcore or Leatherman scene club.
Why is that not there anymore?
Well, it probably is there, but it's at the back. You have to go, you know the stages to the right as you walk in. It's sort of out there. And it was a sort of like secret place. And it had a different entrance. So it was kind of separate.
Okay.
So it had an entrance down the alleyway. It was pulsating in there. But in the week, there was a night called Cha-Cha's. And this was early 80s. And that took over the Sound Shaft. And it was an industrial looking space. It was really good in there. Probably still there. You can probably go and see it. I don't know what I mean, it's part of the Heaven
building,
yeah. Heaven
like
Arch. It's
decades
just
and
another
decades
arch.
of popper smells.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I used to like it when QX used to have they used to have like a Rent Boys party in the sound shaft sometimes. I used to love that.
What, like to showcase Rent Boys?
Well, you know, the Rent Boys really supported QX when it first started. Well, but they probably do now. Well, advertising.
Yeah.
You know,
Kept it going.
it's basically supported that free publication to happen. So, yeah, why can't the Rent Boys have a party? And it'd be really great to meet all the Rent Boys too.
Clothing
and they
optional.
really had amazing stories.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Tales of glory holes and what have you. So good.
Well, we've all got one of them.
So good. Anyway.
Whilst we're still talking about heaven, are you able to talk about this clone?
Well, do you know what? The other day, I was, on the internet, and I found a programme that was, it was a documentary about Lol, or Laura Lee. Lol, a boner queen of fabularity. And in it, Lol, who is a drag queen of a bygone era, talks about exactly the question you're asking me. So I'm just going to pass it over to Lol and tell you to go and listen, go and watch this. It's on YouTube. Lol, a boner queen of fabularity. And Lol talks about all the different types of queens. And your clone queen is one of them. Which was a relatively modern, well, it was the sort of late 70s. And it's really, I guess it was sort of adopted from the Village People.
Ah, okay.
And it was a sort of a butcher than butch kind of dressing up to pass kind of look.
A hyper-masculine.
Hyper-masculine, yeah. But there was a moment when the Village People went a bit new romantic.
Yes, sex over the phone.
That's
Amazing.
the one, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
I saw them do a PA of that. There's a drone. Thrilled.
And so
good.
It's amazing.
So good.
The video, you have to watch the video.
Okay, so...
But so, was there a stigma attached to clones? Because I can't quite get my head around it. Is it...
Well, Earl's Court was the clone kind of central, but I'm not sure that people are really that cloney, if you know what I mean. So there was your leather man look, that would be the colon, but it was very camp. It wasn't but it kind of looked kind of quite butchified.
And
but
then
it
as
was
soon
like
as you scratch the
most people
surface,
didn't really have a bike. They might just go out with a crash helmet in the hope they might meet someone with a bike. And it was a men only. Once again, it was a man only. I did go there every now and again. And then there was your leather queen, clone, like plaid shirts.
Oh.
That sort of beardy look. Well, really the look.
You're looking at me judgmentally.
But yeah. It is that sort of look, but it was even more, butchified.
Like acting out.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something that I was going to...
what other clone queen looks were there? I have to Google it. I'm going to come back to you on that. There is a diagram somewhere.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
The hierarchy.
I mean, you had your sort of Tom of Finland type look,
Yeah.
That was part of the thinking. The Tom of Finland... cruising in the forest type look. In fact, that would really be your clone queens.
Yeah.
Really.
Was there any kind of overlap, or would you stick in your...
I've got one. Have you ever been to Backstreet? Oh, well, you have to go. You have to go.
So another men-only venue that you've been in?
Backstreet opened in 1983. Yes, another venue. but this club... it's been teetering of late, but it is still there. Backstreet. It's in Bethnal. No, it's not. It's in Mile End.
Mile End.
I mean, I've only been there, but then I did realise that I did actually know the manager and everything, so it's fine. But I went there because a friend of mine, James Jeanette Main, who has a band called Wild Daughter, wanted to put a party on there, and so he did one for Rick Owens, and girls could go. And then Wild Daughter a bit later on, in more recent times, did a gig there as well. So I've been there a couple of times. But if you go there, you can go there, everyone, like tomorrow, and it's quite fabulous. They have posters that have been hanging up since 1983. The Tom of Finland posters and whatnot, you know,
amazing.
all a bit curled up at the edges. I'll take you there. It's so beyond. You have to go, and it's got like it's got dusty boots, you know, proper like one of those type clubs. It's got dusty boots hanging from the ceilings. It's got like, you know, 40 years of dust on. It's got cages. It's got shackles. It's got glory holes. It's got everything. And all the staff are really, really lovely. In fact, one of the staff is an artist. I went to see their show as well. So it's really, I'll come back with the name. But yeah, it is quite sort of, you know, a beyond space that still exists. But it is men only, I think, on most.
So kind of this, like, so kind of like a shout back. No, what's the word I'm looking for? The callback to the olden days, because those kind of places don't really exist in London anymore, do they?
No, not really, no. And so really, in a way, that's why, you know, to find somewhere like that that's kind of stayed exactly the same through the decades is that quite unbelievable. It really makes you want to sniff poppers.
Shall I get some now?
Yeah, it does. Where were we? So, we were talking about the sound shaft and that, which was a similar kind of thing and sort of started around the same time. But, you know, I was more involved in these more abstract kind of nights. Well, I say abstract, just sort of like less rigid in the dressing up department and not sort of so cruisy.
Uh-huh.
But there was cruising. There's always cruising going on in clubs, isn't there? There's always that sort of part of the going reason. Out.
Yeah.
I mean, in real life, I mean, if you just wouldn't bother going out if you didn't think that love was in the air somewhere along the line, really.
Love or something else.
And so that leads us on, I feel, to the mid-80s and the club called Taboo, which was Lee Bowery's night, which in a way was another hosted one night of a week affair in a club called Maximus in Leicester Square. And he ran that with a person called Tony Gordon. He sort of looked after all the comings and goings, and Susan Tilley did the cashier lady job. I actually, Sue and I also worked at the WAG Club, which is another club. I used to do the cashier job there, and so did Sue. Anyway, so Sue was the cashier lady, and a boy called Mark Vautier did the door, and another hedonistic night that really didn't last that long. It's a couple of years.
But has this legend
but
around
really,
it.
Once again, made a huge impact on the clubbing scene and on the whole idea of clubbing, and sort of changed things again, switched it all up again.
And so what would you expect from a typical night at the Taboo? At Taboo, sorry.
There would never really be a typical night. Jeffy Hinton was the DJ, along with Rachel Allburn. Rachel Allburn DJ'd there when she was pregnant in the most fantastic sort of outfits. And a boy called Mark Lawrence was also the DJ. So there was the three of them. Jeffrey, there was a screen there, which we quite liked. And Jeffrey used to show his videos. They were called scratch videos, I think, at the time. But basically lots of edits of things. And Jeffrey, from that, is still creating visionscapes of club life that melds through the eras. I actually saw something last week at the ICA that he did that, there's a festival coming up and they had a launch there. Oh, what festival was it? Oh God, sorry.
No, that's fine. Look it up.
But it's really important to get all the things in. What was it? God, Fringe. Was it the Fringe? No, it's not that. Anyway, that was very exciting, actually. Hold on. Oh, that's it. Yeah, it is the Fringe Film Fest. So the Fringe Film Fest, they launched. They got things coming up in March, which I think will be really quite sort of very exciting. I love it that there's these sort of festivals going on, actually. There's another one, a launch tomorrow for something. I can't remember what that was. I have to look that up. Anyway, but they're things where people can exchange ideas and show everyone what they're doing. But Jeffrey's archival film, actually, that was really good because he's managed to actually use real archive snippets, film work, and make it be relevant to the life that we all live now, and the club world we're all involved in now. So it's fabulous, actually.
How far back does the footage go?
It sort of kind of went back to like about early 80s.
Okay.
And right up to the present. There was sort of things like Amanda Peck prancing around in it, and all sorts of stuff, things that happen in clubland, events and things that happen in a real sort of undergroundy type of way that are still going on. I should take you on a tour, shouldn't I? Yeah.
We should hire a bus or something.
There are things going on. There's lots of things going on. Anyway.
So Taboo
was, it was a midweek night, and a typical night at Taboo. As I said, there wasn't really a typical night, but whatever Lee was wearing, that was a highlight, obviously. So it was very exciting. I mean, I do quite fun things like go, right, I'm going to take an acid before I go, and then we'll meet you there, and then we'll have a dance around or something like that. Or MDMA had just sort of come along, really. Then that's when ecstasy was starting up in the mid-80s. So, but it was in a sort of powder form. And I seem to remember somebody had a bag of it. So it was all pretty sort of crazy, but the energy levels were definitely up.
And so what was the main differences between Taboo and the Blitz?
Well, I guess there were new people, new people coming in. The music had changed somewhat. I think maybe the Blitz was quite sort of serious in some aspects. And Taboo brought a sort of like a different kind of controversy to the situation. They were still both very sort of confrontational in different aspects, such as in creative dressing and ideas and hedonism. But I think that the whole energy level was like ramped up a notch or two, quite frankly.
With Taboo.
Yeah.
There's a kind of a theatricality as well.
They were both very theatrical.
But there's like a heightened...
It was it was ramped up. It was kind of quite a crazy feeling. I always used to say it was because Halley's Comet had like blasted into the atmosphere at some point.
And supercharged
in like 84, supercharged. There was an energy, if you believe in those sort of things.
Do you recognise any of the places that we discussed in this episode and have your own memories to share? If you do, I would love to hear from you. Please reach out through any of my social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find me with the username KAndersonMusic. Lost Spaces is not only a podcast, but a concept record as well. I've been writing songs about queer venues and the experiences within them and the people who go there and used to go there and might go there in the future. And I'll be releasing those songs over the next year. You can hear the first single from the set, Well Groomed Boys, which is also playing underneath my talking right now, across all streaming platforms. If you like this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribe, leave a review on the iTunes store, or just tell people who you think might be interested in finding out more. I am Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.